Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among other things. Now what we're doing is we're taking a look at VTHO, which is Vethor token, one of my favorite tokens out there. So I want to thank you very much for joining me here because I have a really strong community built around this currency, and I can tell you that it's definitely worthwhile, right? We're going to go ahead and take a look at that closer, of course, but for now, just to kind of preface with the fact that I am not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. Always do your own research. I have years of trading experience, and my goal is to ensure that we help you find good entry points and best practice so you can learn along the way. Okay? Now, again, this is just a technical analysis. There's no fundamentals here. If you have insight on the fundamentals, feel free to comment below or message me on my Telegram community and or Discord channel. That's all in the description below. And if you'd like to show your support, I do have a Patreon as well. And with that, let's go ahead and check it out. Let's get to the video. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at VTHO. This is Vethor token. I'm excited to check this one out because my community had asked me to reference this and see, what's going on with the recent price action so we can try to find a good entry point, obviously, to ensure that we're all profitable in this unique industry right now. So we're going to take a look first at Bitcoin and Ethereum just to get a baseline of what's going on there as well, just so we know big picture of what's going on. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And I've got Bitcoin pulled up here already. And just so you know, I'm using the Binance desktop application, and I'm using TradingView within. And if you need to find it, TradingView is up here in the top right-hand corner. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, this is first of all, again, the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. We had some previous major support and resistance levels. I mean, they're all resistance lines now, but at this point in time, we probably want to mark a new one because it does appear that the price had rejected roughly about 42,000. So we're just going to go ahead and mark that and see how that handles moving forward, and if the price can come back up and jump above that level. But it was tested twice before we had the major sell-off recently, and it does look like it was just rejected at about 42,000 and some change. So just keep that in mind. Again, this is a 4-hour chart. All the moving averages are trailing above, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we have a lot of room to grow for Bitcoin, a lot of hurdles to jump over, if you will, in order to get back up to 60,000 or higher. We'd all love to see that. It'd be fantastic if that was the case. But for right now, it's nice and good with what Bitcoin's doing the last 12 to 16 hours. It's definitely increased. I mean, obviously we all know kind of what happened back there, but if you look in the last 12 hours alone, we've got about a 10% increase. So that's really allowing all the altcoins to kind of jump back into their original, range. They're all back in their average true range for the most part, with that kind of, security. But we would like to see Bitcoin consolidate a little bit and then maybe ramp up again. And that would give us a really prime position to be able to get some recovery in a lot of our altcoins. Okay. So that's Bitcoin. We're looking at Ethereum here next. Almost the same scenario. Like, you could pretty much anticipate what's going on with Ethereum based on Bitcoin's movement, which is contrary to what it did before. So what I'm guessing is happening right now is that Ethereum is no longer the main altcoin that people flock to when Bitcoin does poorly. Because if you see over here, Bitcoin was doing bad and Ethereum was doing really well. And then recently, we lost a lot of control in the market on Bitcoin side. A lot of other coins, of course, did the same thing here. But normally, Ethereum would probably still be up here or higher based on the overall sentiment there. So I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Ethereum is no longer the prime choice for a lot of people. They're probably shifting over to Cardano and a handful of others that are very strong altcoins that have really high market caps. You can kind of tell by looking at the market cap what's going on. Conversation for another day. This is not a fundamental analysis, but generally speaking, on the technicals, simply stated with the technical data here, Bitcoin and Ethereum are essentially marrying each other, and it's safe to say that that is the case. We do have a potential resistance level right around 3,100. So that'll be the next major milestone for Ethereum to jump up and over, as well as a 200-day moving average, because that is essentially the most closest one. So I would venture to guess the 200-day moving average and the price action, as well as 3,100, all three of these things will likely intercede soon. So we'll see them kind of work as, these two work as resistance levels. Hopefully it'll break through and raise above and stay as a support. But currently, that's kind of what we're looking at for Ethereum. Now let's look at VTHO. Now, this is one of my previous favorites. I mean, it's still a favorite, don't get me wrong, but I really enjoyed what it was doing initially, and this period of consolidation. A lot of what you see here is essentially, doing what Bitcoin's doing, right? Now, obviously, it's not exact, but let's look at some of these dates here. So on the 17th, this is the 17th. Let me see if I can zoom in for you. This is the very first Bitcoin sell-off right here. Okay, and then it tried to consolidate, and it lost to the second Bitcoin sell-off, which is right here. And then, of course, on the third Bitcoin sell-off, it ramped up, which a lot of altcoins did because the price was just too low. So that being said, the reason why I'm covering this here and just highlighting this is the fact that we had a period of consolidation where the price was trying to get back up. And of course, 2 or 3 major Bitcoin sell-offs here occurred and caused the price to come lower than it should be. So the reason why we're seeing this price action right now is because the price was way too low, and obviously it needed to be higher because the average true range for VTHO should be at 0.014 upwards of 0.02. So I mean, it's got an average true range, it should be much higher. So I'm speculating and I believe that the price will continue to increase over the next few days. So likely any type of entry point would be a good entry because we should expect to see this one recover, just based on the fact that how it performed previously to Bitcoin selling off tells me that it's going to be doing well if Bitcoin can just reach a state of consolidation for a little while, right? So if that recent increase we saw from Bitcoin goes up, then fantastic. If it goes sideways for a while, that's also fantastic because this is an altcoin that can perform well when Bitcoin is in a state of indecision. Okay? So again, that's the one-day chart. Let's take a quick look. Obviously, we got an increase in volume, 3.43 billion volume. That's quite a lot. Another thing to note too is the price bounced off the 30, the RSI at 30, and came back up. Of course, big surprise. It was way too oversold. So hopefully some of you got in at 0.005. That would have been a fantastic value. Hard to pinpoint that, of course, because some of us were sleeping, some of us were nervously holding on to see how much lower it'd go. But generally speaking, not much to extract here, minus just the fact that the price should be much higher, and it will likely continue to increase over the next few days. Again, pending Bitcoin doesn't have another terrible sell-off. But I do think Bitcoin is stabilizing and doing well, considering everything that's happened, and it should continue to increase over the next few days as well. That's my guess. That's the overall sentiment in the market right now. So we're looking at the 4-hour chart here now. And just something to note, I've got the moving averages enabled. I've got the 50, 100, and 200-day moving averages on. And this tells us right here that the 50-day moving average is working kind of as a resistance line. Even though the price action broke above, it hasn't closed above. So that tells me that we're going to probably see this be a significant resistance level for a short while, maybe not long, but some time. And if we're looking at, I mean, if you look at it, was hit quite a few times right about this point. So I would say 0.0126 is a pretty consistent resistance level. So just pay attention to that. 0.0126 should be a resistance moving forward, and hopefully work as a support thereafter, because obviously it's been tested quite a few times. Breaks above the 50-day moving average and that resistance level, it will become a support, and that's kind of what we're hoping for here. So pay attention to that over the next few hours of trading. Looking at the volume, obviously we saw that earlier, significant volume. That tells us that the bulls are in play and the bears have kind of become exhausted, as well as the fact that the RSI was under 30, as we already indicated. It was right at 30 on the one-day chart, under 30 on the 4-hour chart because it's more exaggerated, right? It's a smaller time frame, so it's responding quicker. Okay, so that being said, good entry point would have been right here where the RSI came right back up over 30. Because usually, again, something to note, and I don't think a lot of people understand this, it's not ideal to just buy a currency when the price drops below 30. You want to wait for the price to come back above 30 and make that your entry point. And what I mean by that here is if you look at this 4-hour chart, right here at approximately 0.01, basically 1 cent, the RSI just peaked under 30. But if you go to where that RSI came back over 30, the price action was more in the range of 0.008. So it's almost 20% better. Okay, so just something to note, don't just FOMO in when you see the price being really low and the RSI being really low. Wait for the RSI to actually come back up a little bit and then try to find your entry point there. Inverse applies as well. If it's too high, you might want to consider selling, but only when the price is coming back down to touch the 70 RSI. All right. I'll get you some examples of that later, but for right now, pretty much all the RSIs are going to be really low based on the recent price action and the way that Bitcoin's been performing. Another good indicator here is the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence. The bottom line is intersecting in upward fashion. That basically just shows us that it's a strong indication of a buy signal. If you were considered considering a swing trade, anything over just say 1 to 30 days in that range there, then you would consider this as a buy signal. So there's all sorts of buy signals here right now for Vethor token. I do think it's still a very affordable price. Looking at the 15. Obviously, we can see what happened here. And let's go ahead and turn on some of the important indicators. Now, I'm disabling the moving averages, the simple moving averages, and enabling the EMA 15, as well as the volume weighted average price, the VWAP. And the reason why is because the VWAP works best on shorter time frames. And if you haven't used it yet, the volume weighted average price basically just tells us what the 24-hour volume was expressed as a price. And right now, at this point in time, it tells us that the price should be basically just 1 cent even. So the average volume tells us the price should be 1 cent, whereas the price is upwards of right around at 0.0125. Okay. So there's something to note. There's a significant variance there. That is the main reason why the price came back down. And I always try to teach this in all my videos. When you see the VWAP and the price action get too extreme, in other words, that variance is so large, in a short amount of time, you'll likely see a retracement. Okay, and what I mean by that here is just taking a look at this. You see this very high point at 0.01, let's just say 0.014 to make it easy. And this is 0.009. That is a variance of 43.5%. That is a significant overextension, and I'm venturing to guess we look at the RSI. Yeah, big surprise, it was up over 70. So when you see those two things in combination, it's a sure sign to sell your position, or at least trim some off the top, because the price will inevitably come back down. Sometimes it comes down really hard, sometimes it comes down really, really light. In this case, it was kind of a light, I guess you could say, or just not a very strong retracement because the fact that the price action was so low. And that's why we look at the one-day chart first to kind of see it. Obviously, the price was so low for too long. The average true range needs to be much higher, and this tells us that's why we didn't see a significant retracement. It did still retrace. I mean, that was, I would say it's still significant when you think about it. That is upwards of about 10 to 15%, just in that range there. But generally speaking, common rule of thumb is when you see the price action significantly higher than the volume weighted average price, that's a case in point where you probably want to consider trimming your position and or just being prepared for some type of momentum shift. Okay. All right. So that is kind of what I like to cover on the 15-minute chart. So if you're considering taking entry at this point, there's one of two things you can do. The safe action would be to wait for the price to come above that resistance level and to essentially see how it responds to that price action. Because I know we marked it on the 4-hour chart at right around, let me mark it to 0.0126. So let's go ahead and mark 0.0126. Right here, right? Yeah, right in this range. Okay. So as we can kind of see, the price is testing that current resistance level. So if it breaks above and holds above, and it gives us confirmation, just say roughly 30 minutes of confirmation, then that would be a case in point where you want to consider taking entry. Because the price is above VWAP, it's above the EMA line, as well as the fact that it would be over the resistance level. Okay. And what I mean by confirmation, this is my confirmation, you don't have to do this. It just works best for me because it gives me a better understanding. So if you're planning to do a swing trade here, right? Say you're planning to do a swing trade of 1 to 30 days or even longer, that's okay. But you're not planning to get in and out the same day, then you usually want to use the 15-minute chart for a good entry point. And to me, waiting 30 minutes for confirmation is ideal. So what I mean by that is waiting for 30 minutes above the support and resistance level. So this is a resistance line of 0.0126. So when this green candlestick closes above that, that is one green candlestick, that's 15 minutes. We want to see a second green candlestick close right in this range here. Okay. And the reason why we want to see two is just because there's common reversal patterns when you see that. You see how it goes red, green, red, green. If it does red, green right here, it's consolidating. That's not terrible. That's not true confirmation the price is staying above that line. So to me, two solid green bars or green candlesticks above the support level, or previous resistance rather in this case, works very, very well to give you that confirmation that there's been 30 minutes of momentum in a bullish sentiment, right? So I try to look at that, try to identify that. Do what works best for you. Honestly, if you have a different way of getting confirmation, that's great. I'm a little more conservative, I'm a little more careful, and I only like to take entry after I have good confirmation. Okay. Again, that's for a swing trade. If it's a day trade, it's a little different. I use a 1 minute chart, and I prefer to have 3 solid green bars or 3 solid candlesticks that are moving upwards before I get confirmation. So let me just give you a quick example here. So if you look down here, right? Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. If you're looking down here at this guy, right here where the price decided it wanted to go up. Well, here's your confirmation. If you look at this, first of all, the price above EMA and the VWAP line. So those are both support levels in this case. These two work perfectly as an example of where to take entry. So take an entry right there will be excellent, because obviously it comes over and it bounces off the EMA line and went straight up. Same thing could be said here as well. These two green bars closed above the EMA and the VWAP line, right? Now, even though it consolidated and kind of went sideways for a little while, it eventually tested and bounced off of the EMA line right here. Okay, so those are just some things to pay attention to. It's not foolproof, but it does help to increase your odds by waiting for confirmation above support levels. Okay. The last thing we'll look at is just a 1 minute chart, kind of see what the price action is looking like. As you can see, it's kind of consolidating at this point in time. It is increasing a little bit, but generally speaking, we see it drop below the EMA line and above, below, tests and stay below, comes above, stay below, and now it's above. So this does appear to be somewhat of a bullish trend. I wouldn't say it's super hard or super strong, but it is above the support level. But what you want to wait for is for the price to bounce off the EMA line before you take entry. So if you can see here, it kind of has done that once already. So you see these are 3 solid green bars, right? Closing above EMA and the VWAP line. That's a good thing. You see these 3 here close above EMA and the VWAP line after bouncing off the EMA. So this is essentially a bullish trend, and this would be a good case in point for an entry point right in this range here. Okay, because again, these 3 solid green bars are closing above the support level, which was previously resistance. Okay. So again, these are the things that I look for. Again, you can do what works best for you, but waiting for confirmation above the EMA line is important, because that is like a very consistent support and resistance level that works with it tells you what the momentum is. So as you can see back here, shoots up, tries to reject the price, bounced off EMA, keeps going. Bounced off EMA, lost EMA, but came back up and kept going. So there's a lot of times you can see what the momentum and the trend is with the EMA line. And by the way, I didn't mention this, I apologize. I use the EMA 15. Most people will use the 9 and the 20. To me, that's too much noise because you got 2 lines going. I prefer to split the difference, to use the 15. It works very effectively in my professional opinion, and I really think that it works ultimately the best. Okay, so why have tons of little indicators on here when you can use one that works most effectively, right? So using the EMA and the VWAP line in conjunction with each other gives me the best entry points. I do not really worry too much about the moving average convergence divergence, the MACD on the 1 minute chart. Yes, it tells you momentum shifts, but it works almost the same as the EMA line. So if you're using the EMA, you almost don't even need the MACD. Furthermore, RSI on the 1 minute chart is probably a little too extreme. It picks up on too much movement. So if you're going to use the RSI, focus on the 15-minute chart and see. And right now we're still in good shape, because even though RSI came up and came back down, it's correcting itself, and it seems like it's working itself above, and will likely close above this 0.0126 line. Okay. So I'm going to speculate at this point in time that we're going to see the price slowly continue to increase. It'll probably come up and bounce off of the support level here, and then at that point, once it gets confirmation, it'll continue upwards. Because again, we look at the one-day chart, you are looking at a price that is significantly oversold and still very, very affordable, right? So RSI tells us that it was close to 30 yesterday. So any position in the near future, I feel, would still be a good position because we have the confirmation we're looking for and the fact that the price action should still be in the range of just say 0.014 to 0.02. So hopefully you found this beneficial, and if you do, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to reference my Patreon account. I'm working on a few extra projects that will be out soon, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be exciting. I'm probably going to do some type of group that gives us indications of buy signals. Okay, so we'll reference that later, but for now, thank you again for joining me here. Comment below if you have any suggestions, recommendations, or just comments, and thank you again for joining me here today. We'll see you all in the next video. Take care.